Well, the feedback that I have received following the recent Higherside Chats upload over the last few days has just been absolutely phenomenal. I've been blown away, I've been humbled by it. I can barely describe some of the correspondence that I've had publicly and privately over the last few days. It's been terrific, it's been humbling. What can I say? But there is one big problem, which is what this video is being made to rectify. And so my hope is that by the end of this video, those of you who have listened to this call, you will have received a very important addendum. Now let's take a look at this call just quickly. It was uploaded 3 days ago. Many of you have listened to it already. This is the first, maybe half of the call. And it's up to about 10,000 views, which as you can see, does compare quite favorably with some of the other calls that have been uploaded recently, which are all around sort of 5 or 6,000. This one's already up to close to 10, so it seems to be resonating with people. And I think there's a bunch of reasons that contribute to that. One of the main ones being what a good job Greg did of asking questions and giving me a chance to give answers, because there have been some instances in the past where people have invited me onto their show or onto their platform and maybe sought to attack. Whereas Greg, even though he did have some challenging questions for me and some follow-up inquiries, they were fair and they were reasonable. And I think that's probably the main thing that has made this resonate with people. One of the problems, however, is that the first 80 or 90 minutes of the call were spent primarily on the history hoax, rather than on what I think is, still part of the history hoax, but a different element of it, which is the Nikola Tesla deception. And so what I want to do is explain to you why that Nikola Tesla deception is so important. And to help me do that, I've got my handy dandy little paint pad here. So before you judge what I have to say, just hear me out here. What I want to do is explain to you why the Nikola Tesla deception is, in my opinion, so important. And then I will show you what the evidence is, the compelling evidence that shows that we've been deceived about Nikola Tesla. Because if I can't convince you that the potential deception is important, then why would you care to look at the evidence to see if you have been deceived? Whereas if I can show you that if we've been deceived about Tesla, it's important, then you will care about the evidence, and then we can move forward. But if I can't show you that, then what's the point? So let's try and cut to the chase. So again, no matter what you think about Tesla, let me explain to you why I think it's important, if we've been deceived about him, that we ought to know about it. You see, Nikola Tesla plays an important part in the Judy Wood 9/11 narrative. Judy Wood is well known for her claims about the dustification of the towers on September 11. And she claims that the dustification may have been caused by some kind of advanced technology. She uses the term direct energy weapon. Now, if you follow enough of her work, or if you pay enough attention to her work, you will hear her cite Nikola Tesla. And there's a large overlap between the audience that believe in her dustification theory and people who believe in certain theories about Nikola Tesla, and this is entirely understandable. If it is the case that Nikola Tesla, there's a deception at play, then that can pull the rug out from underneath the Judy Wood narrative. Now, why is this important? Because I believe that Judy Wood is a red herring when it comes to 9/11. Judy Wood and her dustification theory is a distraction from the far more important and significant elements of the 9/11 thing event. And I use the term thing event to describe 9/11 because it was so much more than an event. It was so much more than a phenomenon, a cultural phenomenon. 9/11 changed a lot of people's lives on the micro and on the macro. It is important for both exoteric or surface level or easily identifiable reasons. It's also important for esoteric or veiled or poorly understood by the regular people reasons, if I can put it like that. So if this guy is a deception, if it can be shown that he didn't even exist, and just hear me out, guys, just hear me out, then it undercuts the Judy Wood narrative, it gets rid of her red herring, and then we can take a fresh look at what 9/11 really was. There's another reason why the 9/11 story is important, because people like Nikola Tesla are used as examples of these great inventors who led to technology. We've got this life-changing technology in the palm of our hands. People are now scanning their eyes to open up their phone, which they're using to check as soon as they wake up. They read it before they go to bed. They do their banking on there now. They do their communications on there now. They read their emails. I know people who spend more time on their phone than with their own children. This is life-changing technology in many ways. And we're told that it's great inventors like Nikola Tesla who helped bring about the technological revolution, and maybe that's true. But maybe these guys are just used as figureheads or lightning rods or frontmen to distract us from what these really are. And I think an understanding of technology is the key to understanding what is happening in the world today. Not only that, but the esoteric understanding of 9/11 is a key to understanding what's happening. And this is only possible when we get rid of belief in Judy Wood and dustification and all these kinds of things. In other words, what I'm trying to suggest is that if we have been deceived about this guy, it affects a lot more things than just whether or not we believe that some guy from Europe invented some things a few years ago. I'm suggesting this is a very important thing indeed. Now, if you agree with me that the Nikola Tesla element to all of this is important, now we can move on to the evidence. You see, a couple of years ago, I looked into the Nikola Tesla narrative, and on my website, available publicly, is a whole bunch of information that I discovered, including a 2-hour podcast that I put together back in July of 2016. This is available completely for free, and I'll make a link to this in the info box below so you can go and check it out. As I said though, this was one of the main things that we spoke about in the second hour of the Higherside Chats call that I had with Greg Carwood. And what I want to share with you now is some of the feedback that's been left on the plus side of the Higherside Chats. So in other words, this is feedback that has been left by people who are already members of Greg's website. So what you're about to read is not people trying to promote his website. These are not people who are trying to encourage more people to sign up. This has been posted behind the Higherside Chats paywall. So this is just people's frank feedback that they've given following listening to the call. I've copied and pasted this from that section, and I'm not attributing this to the people who left the comments because they might have left it under the expectation of remaining anonymous, which is entirely understandable. Mind you, they use usernames, so if I just gave you their usernames, it doesn't really change anonymity, but out of respect to them, I thought I'll just take what it is that they're saying rather than try and quote them with attribution, but I'm happy to add attribution later if they would like me to do so. Again, this is feedback that has been left not by people trying to promote the second half of the call. This is just honest feedback. I felt the first hour was weak, and not because of the disagreeing with the discussion, but simply because of the lack of content. It was mostly him, JLB, defending himself and sounded very high horse by saying everyone will find exactly what he found. But then, full redemption in the second and third hour, in my opinion. The content picked up, the conversation was great. I love this new direction, which started for me with Flat Earth, that just says question everything. I disagree with Flat Earth and with some of JLB, but going down this road is beneficial for everyone, because either you reinforce your old beliefs with evidence, or the evidence sets you down a path to question your beliefs and adopt an evidence-based model of our existence and not a belief-based model. So this is someone saying that they thought the first hour was crap, basically. The hour that everyone has heard, the hour that's up to about 10,000 views on the YouTube channel. So that seems to be resonating with people, but there's a comment that's been left on the full show, available only to Plus members, saying, look, basically this part is pretty crap. The good part is the part that's only available to Plus members. And why are they saying that? Even though they don't believe in Flat Earth, which neither do I, and even though they don't necessarily agree with me, they find the exploration of topics in that second part of the call to be the best part of the call and worthwhile, because it's exploring ideas that maybe haven't been explored by people in this scene before. And they see this as being a prima facie good. In response to that comment was another comment that was left by a different person who says, yeah man, agree with hours 2 and 3 really kicked off. Probably the most oppositional I have ever heard Greg be with a guest in that first hour. So that what they're saying is that the hour that you've heard of the call is probably the most oppositional they've ever heard Greg being with a guest. Now, I didn't personally feel as though Greg was being oppositional with me. I thought his questions were completely fair. In fact, I thought Greg was going to be, and this just proves that I was wrong. I misread Greg and I misread his website. I thought Greg was going to be oppositional with me in the call, but no, his questions were completely fair, and he had clearly read my material, and he clearly had follow-up questions that deserved to be asked and that somebody should ask, and I'm glad he asked them. So I didn't feel like it was oppositional, but apparently one of the Plus members did. And so they say that the first hour was a little bit oppositional, but that in the second and third hours, where we talked about Tesla, the Tesla being fictional stuff was quite convincing. But now this fictitious Hollywood renditioning of Tesla's life on the big screen will just cement his existence in the mind of the masses. So again, what this commentary is saying is that the second and third hours are the good part, the part where we talk about Tesla, and they actually found it convincing. And for me, this was probably the most surprising part of the entire experience of going on the Higherside chats and seeing the feedback so far. I had predicted, and I'd even said this to the members of my site before the call, that I was concerned that going on there, I was going to upset a lot of people who believe in Judy Wood, right? If we go back to this, I know that a lot of people, including some of Greg's fans, they believe in Judy Wood. They've bought her book and they've bought her story about dustification of the towers. And it's not my goal and it's not my aim to upset people if they've already bought into stories. However, if I'm talking about what I do and why I do it, and what I believe is really going on in the world, then I have to say that yes, I think her story can be shown to be nonsense for a number of reasons. But one of the main ones is that it's premised on this idea of a direct energy weapon, which is premised on the idea that this guy came up with technology that could be, electricity could be transported over many, many, many kilometers, okay? So the Tesla coils that do work on the small scale that you can see, if you go to, we had a thing called Science Works here in Australia, which had one of these Tesla coils. So over the space of a few meters, yes, you can get electricity to arc, but there's this idea that you can get electricity to be transported over many, many kilometers. And many people attribute that to this guy. But what I'm saying is that I can show you, I can document the evidence, I have documented the evidence that this guy is a fictional character. And it's actually quite clear that he's a fictional character. So clear, in fact, that when I went onto the Higherside chats and I was concerned that even suggesting that this guy was fake, that Greg was going to... I thought he was going to be oppositional and I thought he was going to basically defend this guy's story. No, after 30 or 40 minutes discussing Tesla in particular, it sounded to me as though Greg's completely on board and many of his Plus members are on board with the conclusions that I've drawn from my research. The best part of all of this is that once we had discussed Tesla, we then talked about technology, why this is a key to the 9/11 event, what 9/11 really was, and that part of the conversation was easily, for me, the best part of the conversation. So if we go back to this part here, it is terrific that the first 80 minutes has resonated with people so well, and I think it's kind of cool. I mean, you can judge me for this if you want, but I think it's kind of cool that of all of the recent uploads, this is the one that has resonated the most. For a variety of reasons, and like I said, I think it's mostly because of Greg's work as the interviewer. So that's really cool, but the truth is, and this isn't just my opinion, this is the opinion of people, including Greg's own members, that this really isn't the best part of the call. So if you haven't heard the second part of the call, I'm suggesting to you that you've got two options. The first option is to check the link in the info box below and go and check out my work on Tesla. there's a 2-hour podcast that I released for free that you can check out right now. Check my links, check my documentation, check my evidence, see why I'm saying it's actually quite easy to show that Nikola Tesla is a hoax. As crazy as that sounds, it's actually very easy to demonstrate it. That's your first option, but that's from 2 years ago, and that's entirely my work. Back before this website was even monetized. That was back when I was still just a hobbyist YouTuber and researcher and that kind of thing. A far superior product is available at the Higherside Chats Plus, and it only costs $8 US to sign up as a member of the Higherside Chats Plus. So that would mean that you'd get full access to the best part of that call, as well as the second half of all of these other calls, some of which I've heard, some of which I haven't, so I'm not going to comment on them. But even the $8 for that 2 hours, the extra 2 hours, I'm suggesting that is worth your money. You can afford it. That's no problem. $8. Come on, let's be serious for a second here. And if what I'm saying is true, if what I'm saying is true about Tesla being fake, surely that is worth your $8, because think about the amount of time that you're going to save no longer listening to red herring nonsense, okay? If we can get rid of Tesla, then we can undercut Judy Wood, which means we get rid of the red herring, which means that we can finally start looking quite seriously at what this really is. So once again, I think you've got two options. Check the link in the info box below, there's two of them. One of them's to my website. I provide my Tesla material for free, but it's an inferior version of what you'll get if you just go to the Higherside Chats Plus. $8, guys. It's stuff all. You can afford it. You'll enjoy it. And then you'll be one of the Higherside Chat Plus members saying, yeah, that first hour of the call, even though it is fantastic compared to a lot of what's out there, it's got nothing on the second and third hours of the call. So that's it from me on the 4th of September 2018. Let me say a huge thanks to you for all of the feedback that I've gotten. There's been some good comments. There has been some bad comments, but overall it's just been phenomenal. And I'm happy to admit that I was wrong. I did not think the Higherside Chats audience would be this open-minded to what I have to say. I definitely did not think that Greg or his audience would agree with me about the Nikola Tesla perspective that I'm sharing. I didn't think it'd be this good, okay? And maybe I am a bit too cynical. You know, maybe I've hung around the YouTube truth scene for too long. Maybe I've hung around certain other platforms for too long, like Reddit conspiracy, with all of these cynical, closed-minded people. And maybe I've let that affect how I see other things. But the last few days has helped me to see that, yeah, there are still open-minded people out there. And if my research is good, then when I get a chance to share it, people can see it. And so, yeah, the last few days has just been fantastic. Make sure you check the links in the info box below and make a decision. And until next time, you guys take care of yourselves.